You don't need a better morning routine. You need a life rhythm that honors your actual capacity, not the capacity of some version of you that doesn't exist. Welcome to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential, the podcast where your transformation begins. I'm Sean Michael, and each day I'll bring you quick, impactful insights and action steps to fuel your personal and professional growth. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a leader, or someone ready to break limits and ignite greatness, this is your daily power boost to crush obstacles, stay focused, and awaken the extraordinary potential within you. Because remember, greatness begins within. Let's go. Welcome back to Daily Power Boost. Yesterday, we talked about boundaries as love, why saying no is leadership. Today, we're addressing what happens after you say no. Because once you create space, once you protect your capacity, the question becomes, how do you fill it? And here's where most leaders get it wrong. They look at what other successful people are doing. 5 a.m. routines, cold plunges, the miracle morning, optimization hacks, and they try to force themselves in to rhythms designed for someone else's life. But sustainable pace isn't about doing more efficiently. It's about doing what you can actually maintain without breaking yourself. A few years ago, I was obsessed with optimization. I read all the books, followed all the high performers, built the perfect morning routine, up at 5, workout, journaling, reading, meditation. For about 2 weeks, I felt invincible. Then my kid got sick. Something else needed my attention. Life happened, and the whole system collapsed. Not because the routine was bad, but because it was built for a fantasy version of me that didn't have a real life. I wasn't building a sustainable pace. I was building a sprint and calling it discipline. And when I couldn't keep it up, I didn't blame the system. I blamed myself. Here's what happens when you build rhythms for a fantasy version of yourself. You start strong. You feel motivated. You're convinced this time it's going to stick. And then life throws you a curveball. Suddenly, the routine that was supposed to sustain you becomes one more thing you're failing at. So you abandon it, feel guilty, tell yourself, I lack discipline. You miss the real problem. You're not undisciplined. You're overcommitted to a pace that was never sustainable in the first place. Because there's a difference between sprint season and sustainability season. And most leaders never learn to tell them apart. So let's name it. Sprint seasons are real. There are times when you push, when you go all in, when you sacrifice sleep, margin, balance for a launch, deadline, a moment that truly matters. That's not wrong. That's strategic. Here's the part most people miss. Sprint seasons have to end. You can't live in sprint mode forever. And if you try, your body will make the decision for you through exhaustion, illness, breakdown. Sustainability seasons are where we build, where you slow down, where you honor actual capacity, not the capacity you wish you, where you stop performing productivity and start living it. So let's reframe what rhythm actually is. Rhythm isn't about doing the same thing every day. It's about knowing when to push and when to rest, and trusting yourself enough to do both. Your sustainable pace won't look like anyone else's, won't be Instagram worthy, and it definitely won't fit in a productivity app. But it will be yours, and that's the only pace that lasts. And that alignment, that's what we're closing out tomorrow. The aligned leader. What happens when your work finally fits your life? Because this whole series has been building to one truth. Recovery isn't about getting back to who you were. It's about becoming who you're meant to be. And that requires integration, not balance. But first, let me go ahead and land today. Here's your sustainable pace practice. Look at your current rhythms, your routines, your schedule, your commitments. Now ask yourself, am I in a sprint season or a sustainability season right now? If you're in a sprint, great. Set the end date. Put it on your calendar. Know when the sprint ends and the rebuild begins. If you're supposed to be in sustainability, but you're still sprinting, there's your answer. Because sustainable pace isn't about doing less. It's about knowing the difference between the two and honoring which season you're actually in. Leaders who last aren't the ones who never slow down. They're the ones who know when to push and when to pace. Because you can sprint to a launch, but you can't sprint to a legacy. Legacy requires rhythms that don't break you. Rhythms built on your actual capacity, not your fantasy selves. Rhythms that honor the season you're in, not the one you think you should be in. This was the sustainable pace, building rhythms that don't break you. Tomorrow, the aligned leader. What happens when your work finally fits your life? We're closing this series, 10 days of rebuilding what burnout broke, or what it almost broke before you caught it. Tomorrow, we integrate it all. With strength and heart, I'm Sean Michael. Stay close. Thanks for tuning in to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential. Remember, transformation starts with action. So take today's insight, make it your own, and awaken your inner potential. Because remember, greatness begins within. Catch you tomorrow for your next Power Boost.